they can be rough on kids, but never adults. And white adults in particular have never seen themselves as a race.
The Klan is coming down the street, and I'm standing with a Jewish friend, and neither one, well, I'm gonna run.
Ben Shapiro just shut down Whoopi Goldberg on The View, and she's not happy about it. You won't believe what he said that got her so worked up. It's time to break down this epic showdown between two of the most outspoken figures in media today. Now, Shapiro's not known for pulling punches, but this time he went for the knockout. Ever wonder what happens when someone tries to rewrite history on national TV? Shapiro's response to Whoopi wasn't just a correction, it was a full-on history lesson that left her scrambling.
Hostages back into the terror tunnels in the Gaza Strip. And ever since then, the Biden administration has been, shall we say, reticent. This sort of idea that you can take all the right actions and that there is no correlation between that and success is such a lie, and it's a malicious lie, and it teaches people.
Shapiro came out swinging, and he hit Whoopi where it hurt with cold, hard facts. He didn't mess around when he pointed out that the Nazis saw Jews as a distinct race. It didn't matter if you practiced Judaism or not. If you had what they called Jewish blood, you were a target. Talk about shutting down Whoopi's argument. But Shapiro wasn't done. He called Whoopi's take ignorant and despicable. Strong words, right? But he backed them up. He said that when you downplay the Holocaust to just some random act of cruelty, you're making light of something huge. It's like saying World War II was just a little disagreement. Here's where Shapiro really showed his chops. He pulled out the big guns, Hitler's own words. Yep, you heard that right. He quoted Mein Kampf to prove his point.
Nazis considered Jews to be an inferior race. Now, words matter, and mine are no exception. I regret my comments as I said.
White people are also seeing that they are as susceptible to getting knocked down.
Hitler wrote that the very existence of Jews was based on the lie that they were a religious community when they were actually a race. Shapiro used the Nazi leader's own twisted logic to show how race was at the heart of the Holocaust. But wait, there's more. Shapiro tore into Whoopi's claim that the Holocaust was just a fight between two white groups of people. He pointed out how ridiculous that is. It completely ignores how the Nazis systematically targeted Jews based on their ethnicity. That was the whole point of their sick ideology. Why was Shapiro's takedown so effective? Because he came armed with facts, logic, and historical context. He didn't just disagree with Whoopi, he showed why she was wrong. He broke down her arguments piece by piece, exposing how little she actually knew about the subject. This clash between Shapiro and Whoopi isn't just about who won an argument, it's about the importance of historical accuracy. When celebs like Whoopi spout off about serious topics without doing their homework, it's not just annoying, it's dangerous. It spreads misinformation and waters down the real horror of events like the Holocaust.
Terry Lloyd Austin, the U.S. blamed Israel for a drastic drop in humanitarian aid into Gaza that contributed to starvation and widespread suffering, particularly in more stresses. And then you have new waves of immigrants who are coming from more secure places where there is a guarantee of
Shapiro's approach shows why it's so important to challenge these woke narratives. He didn't just say Whoopi was wrong. He explained why, step by step. He used Hitler's own words to prove his point. That's the kind of solid evidence that's hard to argue with, even for someone as outspoken as Whoopi. After Shapiro's takedown, all eyes were on Whoopi. How would she respond? Let's just say it wasn't her finest hour. When celebs try to save face, sometimes they just dig themselves deeper. Wonder how many PR teams were facepalming that day. Whoopi's attempt to defend herself was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. She kept insisting that the Holocaust was about man's inhumanity to man. Sure, that's part of it, but it's like saying World War II was just a disagreement between countries. It misses the whole point, and her co-host tried to help her out, pointing out that the Nazis specifically targeted Jews, but Whoopi wasn't having it. She doubled down, saying, "But these are two white groups of people." Talk about missing the forest for the trees. It's like she couldn't grasp that race isn't just about skin color. Ana Navarro tried to throw her a lifeline, explaining that the Holocaust was about white supremacy, but Whoopi just shut her down, saying, "You're missing the point." Ironic, right?
Wasn't about race, and it was instead about man's inhumanity to man, but it is indeed about race.
Make smart financial decisions. Make a smart decision about your family. You know, the entire entertainment arena is geared towards stories of people overcoming obstacles that...
It's like she was so caught up in her own argument that she couldn't see how off base she was. The more Whoopi tried to explain herself, the worse it got. She started talking about how the Nazis had issues with ethnicity, not race.
It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man. That's what.
Black people getting hosed and children getting bitten by dogs every night. They saw the protest.
It's like watching someone try to put out a fire with gasoline. Every word just made things worse. You know it's bad when even organizations like the Anti-Defamation League have to step in. They had to remind everyone that the Holocaust was fundamentally about the Nazis' view of Jews as an inferior race. It's pretty sad when you need a history lesson on national TV. Whoopi's weak comeback shows a bigger problem with woke culture. It's like they can't handle being wrong. Instead of admitting a mistake and learning from it, they double down. It's all about feelings over facts. This whole mess is a perfect example of what happens when celebs talk about serious issues without doing their homework. Whoopi thought she could just spout off her opinions and everyone would nod along, but when someone like Shapiro comes along with actual facts, it all falls apart.
Being a racist, I was saying you can't call this racism. This was evil. This wasn't based on.
I kept trying to do something and couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. I was a decent person. The guy I was with was decent.
The scary part is, Whoopi's not alone. There's a whole trend of people trying to rewrite history to fit their modern views. It's like they think they can change the past by looking at it through woke-colored glasses. But history doesn't work that way. Whoopi's reaction to criticism is telling. Instead of listening and maybe learning something, she got defensive. It's like she couldn't even consider the possibility that she might be wrong. That's the problem with echo chambers. They make you think you're always right.
You know, whenever we've watched stuff happen on television or on our computers, things change. When you think of
As a way of manufacturing election-related topics, you could not try to swivel an American election based.
This whole episode shows why it's so important to challenge these woke narratives. When someone like Whoopi gets it so wrong on such a serious topic, it's not just annoying. It's dangerous. It spreads misinformation and waters down real historical horrors. Think Whoopi's gaffe was just a one and done thing? Think again. This wasn't just about one celeb putting her foot in her mouth. It opened up a whole can of worms about how we talk about history. And let's just say, not everyone was on the same page. The fallout from Whoopi's comments was like a wildfire in Hollywood. Everyone had an opinion and they weren't shy about sharing it. The Anti-Defamation League jumped in, reminding folks that the Holocaust was all about the Nazis trying to wipe out Jews as an inferior race.
You can't call this racism. This was evil. This wasn't based on the skin. You couldn't tell who was Jewish.
everybody has to say, yes, there is a problem and we see it and we want to fix it. So that's what has to happen.
Talk about a reality check. Whoopi tried to do damage control, but it was like watching someone try to put out a fire with a water pistol. She said she should have said the Holocaust was about both race and man's inhumanity to man. Nice try, but it was too little, too late. The reactions weren't just split along party lines. Some folks you'd expect to defend Whoopi were suddenly quiet. Others you'd think would pile on actually came to her defense. It just goes to show, when it comes to touchy subjects like this, you never know who's gonna land where. This whole mess fit right into the bigger picture of the culture war. On one side, you've got people like Shapiro saying we need to stick to the facts and not rewrite history. On the other, you've got folks trying to look at everything through a modern lens. It's like they're playing different games on the same field. The scary part? This isn't just about Whoopi, it's about how we talk about history in general. Some people are worried that if we start messing with historical facts to fit our current views, we're gonna lose sight of what really happened. And let's face it, forgetting history is a recipe for disaster. So what about The View? You'd think after a screw up this big, heads would roll, but nope, it was business as usual.
As I said, and I stand corrected. I also stand with the Jewish people as they know and y'all know because I've always done that.
Well, racism is in the heart of the country. It just, you can't get away from it. It's
Sure, Whoopi got a slap on the wrist with a 2-week suspension, but she was back in her seat before you could say controversy. But here's the kicker. This whole thing might have actually changed how The View handles touchy topics. They're probably going to be a lot more careful about what they say and how they say it. No more shooting from the hip when it comes to serious stuff. The real question is, did anyone learn anything from this mess? Whoopi's still on TV, still talking, but maybe, just maybe, she'll think twice before spouting off about things she doesn't fully understand. And hey, that's not a bad lesson for all of us. This whole episode shows why it's so important to challenge what celebs say, especially when they're talking about serious stuff. Just because someone's famous doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. Sometimes they need a reality check, just like the rest of us.